faces out there. I assume I've got good audio. Eric, can you hear me? All right, there we go. Very good. Some people are driving. Be careful. Be careful while you're driving. All right, very cool. Welcome to Bird Barrier Studio here. We are going to be talking today about Optical Gel, the product that has really had a huge impact and is marching forward in bird control. Thank you for everybody who's logged on here. It looks like we have a few latecomers. We always expect that. You know, we had quite a few signups today, and we appreciate everybody who's logged on here. One thing that we will ask you guys to do out there, and I'm not sure if Bobby, are we all muted? Is everybody muted out there?
Everybody is being unmuted if they can be.
Okay, so the first thing I want to point out is that with this particular training session, it's always, you know, we're always looking to answer all the questions that you guys have. As a matter of fact, this thing is really built all about the most common questions. So if you haven't seen this presentation before, just rest assured we're going to cover probably every question that you likely have about this product out there. So we're going to hold all the questions for the end, but it'll be very entertaining. You want to stay around to the end because when you're able, we're going to enable all the microphones. People can ask questions. We can, if I get through this quickly enough, we'll have time at the end, maybe even a little more for the Q&A at the end of the session. So I think with that, we are ready to go ahead and get started. So I'm going to go ahead and kick up our first slide of the show here.
Okay, you got it.
So what makes Optical Gel a game changer? You know, how has this product had such a huge impact? Well, one of the keys is that when it's installed properly, it's a simple yet effective low-cost solution. There are simple, low-cost solutions all over bird control, but as we know, if you guys are professionals out there and you do this kind of work for a living, you will agree that there are many devices out there that are not effective, and especially at the professional level. Most important thing I want you to really keep in mind about this product is how much the end customer likes it. What a great sales ability you have to cover some things that are particular to customers. One is the immediate results, and that's, of course, goes without saying. They want to see the bird and the problem get solved. But the product itself is nearly invisible from the ground, very low profile. Very important that we don't harm birds. This is a whole part of bird control that if you've done bird work, you understand that most of the customers don't want to see anything happen to the birds or their chicks, the eggs, anything like that. And as well as people who are involved with it, it's non-toxic. There's no harm that's going to come from it. And most importantly, if you're offering this as one of many solutions to a big bird problem, this is going to be the lowest cost solution. Therefore, the pest professionals, why do pest professionals like this product? Well, the ease to use very simply turns into profit because there's low labor costs. With that in mind, one of the great additional expansions of this product has been route work, how we fit this into monthly programs. That's a whole nother part. Imagine, I've got so many questions about the sellability and how to sell this product. And now with so many proposals, I also talk to you guys out there about how to sell it and how to get residual recurring revenue from it as well. So those are the main draws of this, why there's so much excitement about the product. Now, as far as the product itself, I want to get into what it is and the science behind it. What exactly is Optical Gel? It's the only high-pressure bird disc that's available, first of all. It is a multi-sensory deterrent, but this is the only one available on the market that's used for high pressure for professional situations. There are other discs on the market. They're not for high pressure. They're for medium to low pressure. And if you guys are out there and really serious about bird work, this is one of the things about, I said, effective low-cost solution. Optical Gel is that. And it's a multi-sensory bird repellent. What we mean by multi-sensory is that the way it works to affect the bird is through three primary senses. Visual first, then smell, then touch. Now, let's get a little more deep into the science, and especially some of you guys out there that are really techie guys. I love this part of it. I love when people out there really question the science and really want to know what's going on, because those guys are going to be really good bird guides, because they're looking at it for a proper scientific viewpoint. Birds can see UV light. Now, when I pick up this disc and I'm looking at this disc, it's just going to look a certain way to me and only to humans, because we do not see the UV light reflectivity. Birds can see the UV light, okay? And it triggers an instinctive fear response when they look at this disc. So take a look at this video here that I'm going to play, and this is a good example of what exactly happens when the birds first encounter visually what's going on. Now in the industry, we've come up with a term we call the OG shuffle, which the Optical Gel Shuffle. Basically, it's when birds encounter and they fly away. This is the immediate result aspect of the product that's so compelling, and such a great sale tool to the end customer. Now, that visual alone times is not enough to break a bird from its nesting or its high pressure habit of coming back to a site like that. So additional repellents are built into this. The smell components will have a huge impact as well. The smell basically is all about the pheromones. The pheromones that birds use to attract and identify. And throughout this presentation, you're going to see this orange pad to my right hand here. I want you to think of this as the nesting spot. And it's a very sacred spot to the bird. Even though visual may tell them now they're going to come back and engage, in the smell, the pheromones have been erased with the proper pre-treatment. There's also citronella and peppermint oil that are contained inside the disc that are going to repel the bird as well. Those are natural deterrents for birds. The bleach and cleaners that we use also add into the smell component, the sensory smell component for the birds. When birds are really, really determined to get in to a site and reclaim it, which is often a common failure we'll see with bird spikes and other things where you've used a low pressure or medium pressure deterrent, the touch really is an important factor as well, because that's the final test for the most high pressure birds, especially birds that are reclaiming where there were chicks or eggs. So as far as the touch, agar and beeswax, that is the main substrate here, is very sticky. And once the birds get it onto their feathers or any part of their body, they have to preen it off. And that just finalizes the whole experience. All these sensory experiences are very strong, memorized into their new biology about their nesting site. The birds will then abandon and relocate. Let me just take one point here in time and just express one thing here that's very critical. Whenever you are solving a bird job, you are getting birds to relocate. They're going to abandon the property of your customer and go somewhere else. That is the essence of all proper successful bird work. This is why this product is so successful, because it does that very thing, especially in the nesting areas, while providing no harm to the bird. There are other gels out there that can harm. There are other competitors that are trying to come up with their version of this, but they still have that the harm element that comes into play. Possibly birds get stuck in it and that sort of thing. Now, as far as using the product, we're going to talk about how to space it, how to use it properly. On every box, there are instructions. With every starter kit that we sell, we also include a separate set of instructions to just make it real bullet point proof as far as your understanding of how to do it. But the main thing you want to remember is that the spacing is most critical on the nesting area. 6-inch spacing for nesting. And when we say 6-inch spacing, we're saying center to center. And 10 inches is the maximum. Now, what is 6-inch spacing? Let's take a look here. And of course, we remove the lids whenever we're going to install optical gel. The best way to figure out 6-inch spacing is this little trick where you put 3 of them together, take out your middle one. There is your 6-inch spacing. This is the maximum distance you should place the disc apart when you're treating a high pressure area. Now, if this orange area, the sacred nesting spot, we would cover it in a pattern something like this. It's better to put in diagonal rows to get better coverage. Also, we find that it's even more effective when we use a pattern like this, where we're spreading them apart. This is exactly the type of spacing that you want to use for a nesting spot. This is ideal. Now let's talk about other areas. Other spacing areas would be 10-inch. And 10-inch, you just simply take these discs here. We can look at this from the front view here and get the idea. You're going to put 2 discs in between and take that one out, okay? This is the most distance should ever be apart. One cool thing that we also have is the stick. I'm going to demonstrate it right here as well as far as installing. This tool is very valuable when you're doing large jobs. Once you've glued the disc in place and done the treatment, then you can just simply use the tool to pull the lid off without interrupting the spacing of it. But this is the example right here. We could follow this sort of spacing for the non-nesting areas. This is your nesting area spacing. Hopefully that's very clear. We're going to show you some more examples coming up here.
More areas, more access, more time.
Yep, exactly. Let's see here. As far, what's that?
And where?
I'm not sure.
I think he's talking to somebody else.
Total, and in each.
Oh, okay.
We just need to mute.
Yeah, we're going to cover more of that here. As far as your questions.
Rolly says hi.
Okay. Hey, Rolly. So yeah, we'll cover more. We have more examples coming up here as far as the spacing. The main thing that you want to understand about this spacing is what is the strategy behind it. What it is, the strategy behind this is that the discs belong where the birds place their feet. Okay? Focus on staging and nesting areas. So if this were a nesting area right here, the areas that lead the bird into that area where they'll land and then eventually make it to the nest, that's what we call a staging area. So we don't want to ignore these areas. We want to use at least a 10-inch spacing like this for the staging areas leading in. Wherever we see droppings down below, that would be an example, an indicator. You want to use the droppings as the guide for this placement. Treat what birds touch, not what they face. That was a big mistake that was being made in the early days, where if this were a nesting site here and there was a wall next to it, people would place discs around rather than where the birds place their feet or where they rest. What you want to do is forever get them to no longer land on this spot. And that's the way that you do that, is putting them where the birds will place their feet. Does this create a no-fly zone like Eagle Eye and some of the other products will create a no-fly zone? Okay, no, this product does not create a no-fly zone. Okay, it doesn't create some sort of force field where the birds will stay away from this general area. It's all about where they would have landed had it not been treated. They will land right next to these discs. They'll land right next to them and fly over. And if there was enough space in between, especially in their nesting area, they will land right here. And the reason they'll land here is they're sitting there trying to evaluate whether or not they can reclaim this area for nesting. And that's the whole key, is you want to make sure you don't ignore the spacing guides and prevent them from ever re-entering their spot, and you've solved the problem. They'll have to move somewhere else and find a new nesting spot. Therefore, this would not be a good solution for solar panels. Solar panels, the birds are nesting deep under the solar panel. There will be multiple nesting sites deep under, and birds will go to great lengths to get back to that spot if that spot is not treated. So if we treated an entire staging area leading into the nesting area, birds will suffer through all of this gel here if they can just get to their nesting spot, preen in this area. It's not ideal for them, but the point is, you want to always be able to have access to that end area. Now, on a solar panel, if this were a solar panel, we would want to exclude them out properly. That's a much better, a lower cost solution anyway, and that's what this is all about. It's the lowest cost solution in solving nesting birds. Another mistake was with door openings, placing the disc around the actual opening of a door, thinking that the birds will not fly through. That's another fail in terms of how to use it. Why does it not work? Because that's not where birds place their feet. Again, that's the strategy we really want to emphasize. We would only mount vertically for woodpeckers and swallows. And the question is, well, why is that? Why would we mount it vertically there? Well, the answer is the same answer. This is where those birds place their feet. Woodpeckers and swallows will grab onto a wall. They even grab onto the ceiling sometimes. Where the birds place their feet is where the discs go. All right, another common question. What about dark areas? Not enough light. We could turn off all the lights in this room and there would be plenty of light. You don't even have to be concerned about the light issue at all. It's effective with any level of UV light. UV light is everywhere. Direct sunlight is not required. You can put it in shadows, parking garages, whatever you got here. All right, you want me to tidy up my desk? I'll put my nesting back together here again. Just as a reminder there. There's your proper nesting sequence there. 24 discs per box is the most common, small box that we have. Otherwise, we're selling a lot of the contractor boxes, which are 200 discs per box. Now we're going to get up close and personal and really look at the installation process live. When installed properly, notice that's installed properly is the key. There, we get people, checking in with us all the time, and they're not sure why they're having problems with it. Well, this is why we have to put a stop sign like this in every box. There's a little tag inside just reminding you of this pre-treatment process. This slide, by the way, when completed, is a great guide for you to do a screen capture on, take a screenshot, take a photo of this, because this is it. This is the instruction that you need in order to make this work properly. The surfaces must be cleaned properly before to remove the pheromones to properly pre-treat. And the way we do that is we'll spray Dissolve It and let that soak. Now, Dissolve It, what is that? Dissolve It is one of the bird barrier products that we have that we recommend as the sole cleaning solution for optical gel, because it is the one that has proven the greatest results of anything. It does such a great job. It's in the same cost range as other cleaning solutions. It's not a cost issue. But by spraying that Dissolve It bird-specific pheromone treatment on there for 20 minutes, that is going to kill that pheromone trail, okay? It soaks in to all the pores. Anywhere where bird droppings are going to soak in, the Dissolve It is going to get to it. Then you want to scrub and remove all the dropping residue. That still contains a lot of the identifiable traces to that resident bird. Rinse, wipe everything clean. Then you're going to spray diluted bleach water over the area, just a light mist, and then let that dry. Now the surface is ready. And as a matter of fact, that pre-treatment guide that I just described is a standard protocol that should be used whenever you're doing any kind of install, whether it's spikes, flex track, optical gel. The surface is now ready to receive the actual deterrent to be glued down. Improper surface prep that we just described is the most common optical gel mistake. So I'm going to pause here for just a second and let you take a look at that and do a freeze frame on it.
And we have a question.
Okay, we do have a typed in question, and it's backwards, so.
I'm gonna read it to you because of that.
Yeah.
How much dilution for the bleach?
Oh, that's a good question.
Bleach?
Okay.
100% of bleach.
Yeah. So the bleach water, the stronger you make it, the better. But what we recommend is about a 10% bleach mixture. 10% bleach, and then the rest water. On our Canadian version, there are some people that are logging on to watch us, and Optica is our Canadian version. We recommend a stronger. You can go up to 30% if you need to. It all depends on the pressure level. The biggest thing about bleach that you have to be concerned about is what you're going to do to the surface. Are you going to stain the surface? Is it going to cause any kind of residual damage to, like stucco or something like that? You have to test it a little bit first. But 10% is the normal mixture, and we're going to see that in this video here. So I'm going to kind of narrate a little bit of this, but this is a very good video. We have this video available for anybody to download as well. This is going to be available.
We have another question real quick.
Okay, one more quick question before I kick that.
Why stronger for the Canadian version?
Because the Canadian version required us to remove some of the essential oils that were used in the regular optical gel. The essential oils, as you just learned, are there primarily to deter the bird, and the reason is to the additional masking of pheromones. And why would we need additional masking of pheromones? Because unfortunately, no matter how well we describe this cleanup process, there are a lot of people who do not clean properly. So those are fail-safes that we built into the product. In Canada, they say get rid of the oils, so therefore our cleanup protocol changed a little bit. The bottom line is we get the same results with Optico or optical gel. They both work very effectively. Yeah, one more question.
Do you pre-treat for woodpeckers also
Yeah,
on the wall?
absolutely.
Also on the wall, though?
Yes, also on the wall. On the wall, inside the hole where they're nesting, on storage spots, on drumming sound areas. It's ideal if you can use the bleach, but again, you have to be careful about what you might do to the final surface of it. Again, there's more coming up that we can cover, and we can talk specifically about woodpeckers at the very end in our Q&A if we have a lot more questions of that. Let's take a look at this video here that shows the actual install. for other things. Becoming a certified installer is what you're doing today. By watching this video and get your first jobs off the ground, you're going to be able to do a whole lot more work with this product. Now, as far as gluing it, I mentioned the removable adhesive, but barrier bond as well is our more permanent solution for adhesive. That barrier bond will last for many, many years, and it can be used in areas that don't matter as far as staining and that sort of thing. But as you saw me earlier, remove the lids. Once they're glued into place, you remove the lids. We also have the magnetic version as well as zip tie mounts. The zip tie mounts, the optical gel mag, you can actually remove the disc out of the insert. Here is the most common question that we have of all from your customers, from you guys out there that install the product, and there's a very smart answer to give on this. How long does the product last? Well, it lasts 2 to 4 years, far longer than needed after solving resident birds. So within that answer that you give to that question, you're going to teach the customer more about bird work at that point. If you're smart and you follow this sales process that I'm talking about, you're going to tell them that you have to understand the nesting area and the resident bird behavior. With that behavior, what you're trying to do, these birds are grass. So they're going to move away from their nesting site if you do this properly. The real question is, how long does it need to last in order to do this? And the answer with that is anywhere from 30 to 90 days. Between 30 to 90 days, a bird has to make the decision to either reclaim this nesting spot or move somewhere else. Once it moves somewhere else, the initial job that you were hired to do, which is to get resident birds to leave, has been accomplished. Now the question is, well, how long does it last after that? At least 2 to 4 years. And the point of that is now what we're talking about is a whole different scenario, because the birds that come into this area after a year or two, and we can see here on this slide that I have up of oxidized optical gel, that's from several years, and it turns dark brown. Even if these were all dark brown in that area, they still work very effectively for non-resident birds. So it will continue to work for a very long time. You don't have to replace the disc if you do this right. And so far, you know, there are certain scenarios where you do want to replace to be proactive, but ultimately this product is weatherproof. It survives freezing temperatures. It survives in the heat. The only thing that we see happening is sometimes the adhesives that you glue it down with might melt, okay, especially the silicone removable that we recommend for more aesthetic situations. But this oxidation is normal. And what we see after a few years, I went back to several places last year. Now in 2016, at the Seattle Pest World is when we really kicked this product off, and there were many installs that were done immediately after that. So in the fall of 2016. In the fall of 2019, I went back to many places, and wherever this whole process that you're watching today was done, not a single failure. Everything's still holding great, looking as clean as the day that we left it. Some of the sites, I talked to the maintenance people there, they no longer power wash these areas because the problem has been solved. Non-resident birds have no interest in moving into these cavities with old optical gel in them because, first of all, they don't have the same pressure to reclaim. And the other thing is that it's as a medium pressure deterrent, beeswax lasts indefinitely out in nature. So it continues to do a great job as a medium to low pressure deterrent after it's done its initial job of being a high pressure solution for nesting. That's what's really remarkable over the long term with this product. I'm going to give you an example here about estimating that's really helpful. Some people wonder, well, what kind of money can we make? How do we do these type of jobs? So I'm going to show you an example of a job that, you know, it's kind of like right down the middle in terms of your profitability from a product. First thing you want to do is make sure you determine the pressure. Now, if we look at the photo on the bottom, that is a focus up on the nesting area, which has the highest pressure. If we look at the photo to the right, we can see that's the top, that would be a medium pressure because they're not nesting on top of that area. Therefore, following our spacing guide, we can follow a 10-inch spacing for the areas of the roof, but we have to get a lot more condensed on those areas that are nesting. Not only on the pre-existing nesting spot, but the potential nesting areas that they might move to. Therefore, that underside that's covered by this roof all had to be covered with the 6-inch high-pressure spacing. Once you measure those areas and calculate, you factor in an extra box. So whatever your amount is to get it the exact amount, make sure you have extra. And if you have extra, we'll tell you about this. This is getting more into the upsell of the product. 1 week after, you're going to do follow-up, but you're also going to, with every job possible, include monthly service. I say that now this year, but in previous years, I would say you might want to look into this, but now I'm seeing a model emerge where guys that are doing the best with this always include a monthly service. And the thing is that the customers are so open to this because by far this is such a lower cost solution compared to the higher cost solutions that you're proposing, that having a monthly small recurring revenue to keep an eye on it seems altogether a great idea to the customer, and they're willing to pay for it, especially when you include the whole price as one out of the gate. So here's the exact way that this job was sold to this customer. $590 in materials, which was basically 7 boxes of 24. We didn't even have contractor boxes at that time. But they ended up using 150 discs, and they had 18 extra discs, sold the initial install for $1,750. Now at the top there you see it's a 3-hour job. So in 3 hours, well over $1,000 after your material costs is a pretty good job right there. There are a lot of guys that will take that any day of the week. But in addition, they offered to sell a service contract for the next 6 months. And that would be $96 per month, which ended up being an extra $576, which made the total sale over $2,300. The customer was pleased with this. Not only they felt the price was great because it was half the price of netting, which they already did not like in this particular situation. They had a failed net experience because it wasn't installed properly. But they really liked this. And once the birds moved out of this cavity, they moved to the next door neighbor up onto their ledge. And with those 18 extra discs, the tech just went to the next door neighbor, told them, hey, these birds have moved to your property. I'd like to put these discs up there. They were able to put those in. And for the remaining 6 months of that job install, they never really had to add anything more to that site. And therefore, this was very profitable. Even in the 2 or 3 months afterwards where they didn't see any more trace of the birds, because why? We've gotten resident birds to relocate. That's what this is all about. The resident birds realized their nesting cavity was gone forever, and they moved somewhere else. Birds don't come back. If they're a resident, they don't come back. Non-residents are going to occasionally come into the area, and they're going to fly away immediately. They want nothing to do with this. It was really heavy coverage, as you can see from the photos. From below, they could not even see any of these discs. Unfortunately, the customer did not take, the installer did not take a picture from below, but you get the idea. If it's such a low angle, you're really not going to see that. So this was a great example of how this stuff can be priced, and especially for with the recurring revenue. In the first year, we started to see a trend really emerge, and that was, at one point, we were selling a lot more contractor boxes of 200 than even the 24 boxes. And the reason why is that we were seeing really large projects being solved using this, this approach. Some of the nice things about big projects is they can be done in small phases. The areas that you treat, if we look at the slide here and we see the photo on the right with those rails, they did a starter kit on one of the poles, showed the customer that it worked, and then you could see the rest of the rails that were done. That was a great sale right there. I mean, that project turned into a very profitable job, and it was in comparison to a very expensive net job the customer just could not afford. Another thing that this is really good for is adding value after a large netting job. Let's assume that we did netting on this job instead. Those resident birds are going to be hanging around the property for quite a while. If we go to those ledges where they're collecting now being displaced, putting optical gel in those areas, especially where they haven't had a chance to nest yet, boom, that's a great way to send them along their way permanently. So it makes your netting jobs even better. Less expensive option, small test areas, that's the way you do big jobs, okay? And always, always, always propose this solution with traditional options. You know, netting is a great solution. Netting would have been a really good solution for that big project. But as we know, there are many times when customers just don't have that kind of budget. And when you show them a $100,000 net proposal and then maybe a $60,000 middle solution of some sort, and then you show them $25,000 for optical gel, it just makes the optical gel all the better in comparison to those higher prices. This is another example of an optical gel job that I think just represents exactly what bird control is all about. If we look at this photo, it contains everything that's good about bird control, and that is there's no trace evidence of any deterrence, birds, or droppings. That's what the customer wants to see. They don't want to have bird droppings, they don't want to see the birds hanging around, and they don't want to see the deterrents that are used if at all possible. Putting spikes on this type of setting was just not an option for the customer at all. They spent way too much time preparing the aesthetic of this design, so the architect really hated that idea. These are all different examples of jobs. Take a look at this box right here. You're going to see blinking there. That box is just showing you how the spacing worked for nesting that was going on in these little corner areas of the beams. Signage, skylights, all kinds of little uses of this product. Earlier, we have these tree diagrams, and these are available for multiple different birds. If you go to Bird Barrier, go on under Optical Gel and installation, there's another link. You guys will find these diagrams that are specific for birds like woodpeckers, gulls, mud swallows. They're all available for you online. Another thing that you have available is this video. This video is also a great way to prepare the customer for the starter kit. In your first meeting, this comes up, well, look, I got this product. Showing them this type of video can be really powerful. So take a look at this one here. It's what it is, it's going to be an example of this site. So we see the before and after photo of that site. Proof that it works is really critical, and the free test, which is what this was ideal. This was an example of failed spike. That nest that you see is built on bird spikes, and you want to be able to isolate dropping areas, and then you execute an actual install. Hold on, I guess we have a question?
Yeah, is it effective for all size birds? For example, sparrows?
Yes, yeah, all bird species. The only bird that we see give this a run for its money are turkey vultures, and we have very specific solution. Those are the type of birds, though, that can clamp down their beak on 7,000 volts of shock track, have smoke coming out of their face, and still keep fighting. So optical gel is just a mere flesh wound compared to what they're up against. But for the most part, you know, all of the problem birds that you're going to see can be solved with this solution. I'm not sure if we have the music there, but this is the simplicity of optical gel. Customers really respond to this. There you go. The OG Shuffle. Gotta have our sales rep Ray. And some of you guys know Ray. He get a rap for Vanilla Ice. He's got to do the, the Chicago Bears version of the OG Shuffle instead of the Super Bowl Shuffle. We got to get a song for that. But that movement at the end, it blew the customer's mind. They didn't think this product would work, but seeing is believing. So using videos like this is incredibly helpful, but nothing will sell more than you'll see with with the starter kit approach to this, okay? But what happens when you don't follow instructions? So you get to learn from some of the less technically gifted installers out in the world. This is one of my favorites. When you kind of create your own plan, this guy was arrested for using a flamethrower to get rid of noisy birds, okay? So don't take things into your own hands. When done properly, optical gel is a simple, very effective, low-cost solution. Now, if we can, I guess I'll go ahead and enable, our mics enabled. I might as well let people kind of chime in on this one. If not, we can just hold the question.
Absolutely. We've unmuted everybody, so please
All right.
say at will
right.
whatever you feel like saying.
All right, so here's an installation failure.
Oh, let me unmuting also.
Okay.
There we go. I've unmuted everybody. So.
All right, now try not to make too much noise out there. Because, see, as we talk, then that person shows up on the screen.
Okay, so go ahead.
All right? So what are we going to do? Am I good?
You just hang tight.
Am I good to go?
Yeah, just wait for a second. Hang tight. Hold on.
Quiet on the set in the world, please.
Okay.
All right. Installation failure example here. Claim facts of this project right here. Pigeons were nesting in the signs for about 2 years. Letter E, we take a look at this letter E, and we can see that after placing disc, birds returned immediately. Now it's a 20-inch wide, 28-inch high, 10-inch deep letter E. Birds were removing the disc and covering them with straw. And the guy called and said, hey, this stuff doesn't work, okay? And I said, okay, send me a photo. This is the photo he sent me, and this is how he described the whole situation. Now, you guys out there who paying attention can tell me what some of the mistakes were. Are we unmuted?
Back to unmuted. Anybody have questions?
We have a crowd out there.
Ask, does anybody have questions? That's all.
Does anybody have questions?
It's okay, we'll give 1 second, and then we'll move on. Okay, we have a question. Please ask that question again.
Please ask that question again. Yeah, clean
and spacing.
Very good. All right. Let's kill the mics. Let's kill the mics. We had way too many people, so I apologize.
And he even to kill the mics. Thanks, Eric.
All right. So who typed in? Eric. Eric typed in. I think you. What does it say?
Not clean, not nearer edge, spacing. When people talk, it blocks the screen. Okay.
All right.
Answer them in chat. You got it.
Good job.
We'll see. We might want to turn it back on once in a while.
Yeah, but definitely the spacing was a problem. They didn't clean properly. He pretty much ignored and made up his own plan, okay? Didn't pre-treat with Dissolve It. Ignored the droppings on the ground below. Also, really important. We want to kill the pheromone imprint all the way down to the ground. And didn't glue the disc. If the bird's moving the disc around, then that tells you that they were not glued down. He didn't wear proper PPE, which is we have a little mask and gloves that come with the kit, but that's to remind you professionals to use proper equipment when you're dealing with these bird problems. But here's an example of how to do it right. I'm just going to jump to this one right away. The before and after is pretty compelling. Let me just give you a little bit of base facts about this one. The customer wanted all the birds gone, and all I saw was the before picture on this one at first, right? And we want all these birds gone. They're nesting. They don't want to see any deterrents. Installer had never used the product. And he called us. Hey, I think this is a job for this new optical gel stuff. This was back in 2016. So one thing that I told them right away, don't guarantee you're going to get rid of all birds. And if you listen closely, we're going to tell them they're going to get rid of a particular kind of bird. And I'll see if somebody can type that in. I'm going to leave that as an open one, see who's really paying attention. Is there a particular kind of bird that we're getting rid of?
Resident bird.
Resident bird is correct. We got
Jamie K. and
Thank you.
Eric Arnold.
Jamie and Eric. Very good. Resident birds. No, listen, ma'am, we're going to get rid of all the resident birds. You're going to still see some occasional birds in the area. It'll probably take about 90 days to totally solve the problem. Now, we know that this is going to work right away, but we give some breathing room. You don't have to say you get rid of 4 years of this problem and you got to get rid of them the next day. Don't pin yourself in the corner. You're not going to get rid of all the birds. You're going to significantly reduce the activity and return it back to normal. After 1 week, these birds were gone. We told the guy to tell the customer 90 days. They were thrilled that after only 1 week, the birds were completely gone. They were absolutely thrilled. The customer was blown away. The installer, who thought this stuff would not work because he had never used it, put a lot of money in the job to cover himself if he had to go back in case it failed. And so he made very good money because he had priced it so high. And he ended up being a feature in the story, which the next year we were getting all these success stories, and PMP Magazine asked, hey, give us an example of a guy who'd never used it and what happened. So we said, well, call this guy. We were not part of the interview process at all. We just handed him off, and that story is available online through PMP Magazine. When installed properly, simple, very effective, low-cost solution, okay? The key to this thing being a game changer is that the end user does not want to see bird deterrence. This is something that has really come out more lately in the last few years than I've ever imagined. Big box retailers, all kinds of big national accounts there's kind of like a movement to really pay close attention to the aesthetics of things. It projects on that company's business, especially restaurants. It's a very bad idea to show customers coming in a restaurant that you're having a bird problem of any kind. So they don't want to see that. On signage, storefronts, man, it's great. Proper prep is the most important step, okay? And anybody can do this stuff now. Anybody who watched this and follows the instructions, you're going to be able to inspect, estimate, sell a job right on the spot. If you have a starter kit with you, and you put in a few discs in a sample area before you leave, you can do those in under 15 minutes. Proof of results are what's often needed. As I was, when this product first came to me, no one was more skeptical than me. I told the guy, look, I'm from Missouri. That's the show me state. Show me this stuff work, because I'm not going to believe it till I see it. And it's been an awesome, awesome ride for the last 4 years. This has been awesome, okay? Because the proof is there. This stuff is changing bird control to the point where other people are now trying to copy. These are the same people who were saying that this would never work, including me. I was as skeptical as anybody, okay? They don't expect every bird to be solved, but they will. You want to guarantee a significant reduction in bird activity. Even if you're installing a net, that's a good practice. You know, what you want to do is you're going to underpromise then overperform. That's the key to it, okay? Now, I think we covered everything here. When installed properly, simple yet low-cost solution. Now we're going to open it up to questions, but I think because we have such a high turnout on this thing, I don't know we're going to be able to take audio questions, right, Bobby? Let's just do type. If you guys don't mind, let's type it into the chat.
Broly said brand.
Brand.
He wanted to say the word brand with an exclamation point. So go ahead and decipher that.
Brand. It is a brand. Well, look, brand, that's an important thing, because look, you guys can, as you see here in the studio, I'm not sure if you guys can see it. We got our modern bird control, right?
It's very nice, but he was clarifying with a statement that says when you were talking about the client cares about, that's what he was addressing.
Absolutely right. Right. You know, that's a good point, guys. Listen to this little tidbit from the sign industry. From the sign industry, when you go into a retail shopping center or you go into a retail situation and that storefront has any degradation, that's the term they use, degrading of the original plan. So bird spikes being put on sign with bird droppings and all this mess. If that problem is solved at that retail location, the customer can expect a 5% increase for sale of that store for the year. That could be a huge amount of money. That could, and not just doing this, but oftentimes, what happens with a storefront once birds have attacked it? The customer gives up. They're waiting until they can solve the bird problem before they clean things properly. It's almost fighting a losing battle. Another one is that this is another thing about the brand issue that Rolly mentioned. 1 in 3 people will judge the company, the operation, the people, customer service, and the quality of the product by the condition, physical condition of a storefront or retail or company's location. It doesn't matter what kind of business you're operating. If you're operating in a that's run down, there's cracked windows, there are birds crapping all over the place, and people don't seem to care, it lessens your brand. National brand managers and marketing companies, especially as Rolly is well aware of, there are national brands that sign on the storefront is a sacred place. It's as sacred as a nesting spot is to a bird. The sign represents everything about the brand, and it has to be clean. It has to have no traces of any alteration to that sign in any way, shape, or form. So that's a good point on the brand. What other questions do we have out there? Anything else? I'll let you guys.
Is there a proposal template to give to customers that explains how the product works?
A proposal template? Well, the best way to show the customer it works, of course, is the starter kit, as we talked about, or a test area. But we have materials online, brochures, literature that's available for you to help sell with. Now, we have those available. You just need to email us directly and making your request. But most importantly, if you're just getting off the ground, I want everybody here today to know, I field, when I get off of this webcast, I'm going to be fielding a lot of questions, but a lot of it's going to be live from your job sites. Include me in on your job sites and let me help you sell those. Yes?
Are there any storage requirements, e.g. temperatures, humidity, no drip sunlight, etc.?
Yeah, good question. Any storage requirements?
Eric Arnold.
Okay, there was one tech in the southern Arizona area who was keeping. He took everything out of the boxes, put them in a like a bucket, and kept it in the back of his car, where inside, in black interior, it was just incredible. So not a good idea, because what it rendered the product to change and alter in ways we had never seen. So we kind of tested it on the back end. But most importantly, what he had been doing then after that is driving screws through the product for woodpeckers, causing this fracturing of the product where it had gone through all this heat. So aside from that, no, keep it. The best thing to do, actually, if you got a cooler is a great place to keep them, only because of the scent inside your car. Anybody out there who's used this will know, if you keep it in your car, the smell of the citronella and peppermint oil is really strong. And if you're smelling that a lot more, it means that the product is oxidizing at a faster rate. But overall, the answer is generally no. Don't worry about your storage, and it lasts for many years. Just keep the lids on. Keep the lid on until the final moment, and then you take off the lid. That's when it's activated, and it starts to age. Yeah, next question.
Eric Arnold said, suggestions for using it on canned lights so that it doesn't heat up too much?
Yeah, good question. What do we do with canned lights or heated surfaces? Suggestions. Home Depot, other hardware stores sell flashing materials. Those are the best. In other words, you take a thin metal flashing of any sort, and you just want to create a little bit of a space in between. However, magnets work very well. And magnets, when you use magnets on the top of lighting, the heat just doesn't provide too much of a factor for it. The bottom line is, if it's so hot of a surface that there's a risk, more than likely the bird's not going to nest on it. So what we're talking about are warmer temperatures. Most lighting structures have enough space and insulation where it's not so hot to the touch that the bird can't land on it, and therefore you're not going to have any problems with the optical gel. Any other questions?
Not yet. Oh, sorry, big one. From Jamie K. So, 2 to 4 years expected life when installed. How many years expected life when stored? I'm wondering if I have unused materials for up to a year. Have I significantly reduced their effective installation life?
No, so the life expectancy for storage is the same as what we say as long as the lids have been on. So 2 to 4 years is how long you can store it from without losing its efficacy for solving nesting. Now, keep in mind that if you have extremely old optical gel that hasn't been used for whatever reason, first of all, you know, we can use as much of the supply as you can. So, but either way, after you solve the nesting problem, if it's on a very old box, there's a chance that you won't get 2 to 4 years of life after it's installed. But more importantly, it will still work very effectively for the initial goal, and that is to get rid of nesting or high pressure situation. If you're using it for medium pressure, you're not going to have any problems no matter how long you store it. This is now going into our 5th year here. We've done tests all the way up to about 9 years so far. And so that's the data that we're working from. So don't have any concerns about storage. If you've had it for a year and you weren't sure, and now you're taking this course and you're like, man, I'm going to give this stuff a try, you go ahead and use it. Don't worry about that, okay? Anything else?
Continue on.
That's it. I think we're done. I think we've done all the Q&A, unless we have a little more time here.
Oh, it's up to you.
How about, let's go to, you know what, I'm going to do one more thing here if people want to.
What do you want?
Well, I'm going to go to the woodpeckers, but go ahead. Go ahead with the question.
Okay, here
Go
we
to the question.
Question, real quick. Rolly, hope help. Okay, Jamie continued with the time. So he said, so it's 2 to 4 years life at high pressure, but unlimited otherwise. Tricky question.
Yeah, you know, I would just still, the thing is that
We have another one after that. So
I would be shocked that, you know, that 3 or 4 years down the road, any of this even matters from what we've seen. But when you're talking about medium pressure, just tell your customer 2 to 4 years, 2 to 4 years, 2 to 4 years. I'll tell you right now, you won't have problem on the customer side of it. We get a lot of skeptical installers and naysayers that get in between that create a lot more problems, but I know better. I know the end customers won't have a problem with 2 to 4 years.
and you talked about adhesive and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Keith wants to know, for sparrows nesting in small holes, what's the installation instructions?
Well, okay, all right. So when possible, on any bird, if you can mesh or exclude out for less than optical gel, by all means do it. So if they're getting in these little, right, those cavities for sparrows are tricky. They're at the end caps of Spanish tile roofs. They're everywhere. You got to seal that off first. You're not just going to shove a bunch of optical gel up into that opening. So the combination, though, of the two, right, where we put a little bit of mesh, and then whatever they're landing on, enter into that cavity, you put a couple discs, you solve it perfectly that way.
Tyler, can we get this video? So we're going to get that video.
Yes, yeah. Everybody who needs anything, email me. I think we'll leave my email up at the very end for anybody.
Put it up right
but
now as
but
well.
yeah,
Since you said that. And Eric Arnold, due to the odor, what is the thought on using it inside of box stores? Great question.
no problems interiors. We're seeing it used in interiors everywhere. And basically, what you want to just tell the customer is like, look, about 90 days from now, you're not going to really recognize the scent anymore. The scent does wear off over time. And they're more than happy to trade that smell for the bird droppings. And especially if we're talking about nesting sites interiors, we see no problem. So that smell is not really been an issue. And it's the only time, let me say the only time that I've seen it come up was in a car repair shop where, right, they leave their doors open all the time. Well, now they have nesting everywhere, and they decide they want to get rid of all the birds because birds are cropping on all the tools, electronic tools, computer, you can imagine a little tool shop, And this was at a utility company where they service all the vehicles, fleet vehicles. So they got rid of all the birds by nesting, and then they started closing the doors every night to keep the birds from going back, and they were flying away around doing a lot of the OG shuffle. Well, for the first few days, they were blown away by the amount of smell that in that situation. So all they did was open the doors, and then after a week or two, once the birds had abandoned their nesting site, it was solved. Now, what I'd like to do here, if you guys want, I'm going to cover some woodpeckers real quick. This is a little tool that we have for our training center outside. Now, should I turn this?
Yes, the exactly opposite.
Well, let's go this way with
Thank
it.
you.
So we have a few different situations for woodpeckers here. And since someone brought this up earlier, I've created this little, we've got a bunch of these training modules that we're going to have for the hands-on. But this is an example here of the holes that you'll see for nesting. Over here, we can see examples of,
Let's hold it vertically.
Zach, hold it up.
Vertically.
All right.
Because they are it's a
All right,
physical item.
let's go
Let's be
proper.
real
All
world.
right, we're going to go proper.
Hold it
And
side
Zach
to side.
is
45-degree angle. Zach will hold it like this.
like this.
So you can see it.
All right.
Let go real quick.
Is that cool?
And then now
All right.
we can see it.
So we see the acorns, right? Pretty cool, huh? This is acorn is a typical storage. And then we have down here just your panels. So what this would represent is a sounding area. We use this as a tool for training the proper spacing. And what I've done here is we've got a bunch of magnetic ability to use magnetic. Now, obviously, we're not going to use magnetic optical gel on wood surface, but for the training purposes here, I got a bunch of magnetics. Zach's going to hang on to those. I'm going to grab a bunch of these to show you examples of how to use this. So, for example, on a nesting hole like this, what we want to do is we want to make sure we clean as much of the debris out of there, and we're just going to give a light spray of dissolve it into that hole. Not a lot. We're not soaking this, but we want to get a little bit of dissolve it residue in there, in here as well, right? We're going to get those cleared out. Now we have these holes. Now what we want to do is space the disc primarily where the birds place their feet. Now where they place their feet is going to be somewhere below and then sometimes above. Now they'll go multiple areas. So if you want to put 3 of these on here, it's only going to be better for the spacing. But for standard spacing, we're going to go like this. And of course, we're going to remove the lids. Now, some of you guys are thinking, well, that looks pretty janky. I mean, what customer is going to want that? Let me say something about woodpecker customers, what I've learned, and especially with this product. They have been dealing with the problem for a long time. So this unsightly, weird disc on their house might be a little bit unsettling at first, but once they see that the birds have gone away, right, they're going to be pretty happy. Well, okay, we've stopped the activity. Now within about 6 weeks or so, we come back. Now we've confirmed what are we doing? What is our goal of actually what we're doing here? We're getting resident birds to relocate somewhere else. One of the questions I had today on social media, well, if they just move over here. Well, yeah, of course, they're going to just move over here. And this is part of the process where you have to be proactive and think about these areas. And this is where we sell like a recurring revenue where you're not just selling this as a solution, but you're selling it as maybe a 90-day program. But there's your typical spacing you would see for birds. And then what you're going to do is after about 6 weeks, we're going to take these off. Okay. We're going to patch the damage. Customer will probably do that. Some of you guys out there will offer that service, but for the most part, the customer will repair the damage. The most important thing is after the damage is done, we want to put this back up over this for their return because they will try to reclaim, especially some of these woodpeckers have multiple seasons where they come back, and you have to just be part of this process of getting rid of the birds over time. But once you get them to relocate somewhere else, they don't come back. Another problem is with storage like this, right? We want to take out all these acorns. Don't throw them on the ground, right? That's a big mistake that guys make. You're giving the bird food that you're going to draw them right back. But we're going to spray dissolve it over this whole area, and then we're going to put the bleach treatment over this area, and then we're going to just basically do a pattern where we cover this general area and, as much as possible. There's no real science other than the 6-inch spacing that I talked about. So we want to make sure we have about 1 disc distance between those. The last problem that we see with woodpeckers is just sounding, right? So let's say this is the side of a building where all they're doing is banging on this, making a lot of racket. Now, again, the placement guide that I showed you earlier that are bird specific cover all these sort of problems. And what you want to do is just space. Now you're going to go with more or less like a 10-inch spacing on that. That's not a magnetic one. Let me get my magnetic ones here. So this would be an example where we can space these out a little bit more for sounding, and it's going to look something like that pattern. I've seen this box sell for $2,500 to solve woodpeckers. How was it sold for that much money? Well, they did an initial install on a few of the holes using about 12 discs, and then they sold a monthly program that went on for several months, and they never ended up using the full box to get the birds to relocate. It was about being proactive and just adding a few more discs as needed, and the customer was thrilled. This is very, very profitable work. So that kind of teaches you a little bit about the versatility of this product. We're inventing ideas all the time. There's so many ways you can solve things using this product. Now, are there any questions out there specifically for woodpeckers, or are we good?
We are good.
We're good. Okay, guys. Hopefully that was a helpful bonus that we had time for. I'm not sure we are time-wise. I think we're
We are
we're
an hour 6 right now.
wow, we did very well on this one here. If that's it, I mean, we still have people logged on out there.
Yes.
We're going to go 90 minutes. We can take any more questions out there. Otherwise, I think we can call it early if we want to. Are there any other questions out there?
Not at the moment.
All right, good.
Yeah, I think we're solid.
My recommendation as far as moving forward here, I'm available. I'm available to help. And what happens is, what I find is that you will get 2 or 3 projects. You're off to the races, and I never hear from you again. I just see orders come in, and I know everything's good because no news is good news. I will see orders go out, and then I will see, wow, they ordered several boxes of contractor boxes, but no dissolve it. And you might get a call from me because I will say, hey, what are you going to do for the cleanup? And then I find out, oh, this is all for a brand new construction site. And all it is installing it on beams to prevent birds from, way to go, man. Good job selling that one. Selling it as a preemptive. Wow, what a great idea. What a great way to make money. What a great way for the product to be very effective. You're not going to have any challenges. And as a matter of fact, the thing that I would recommend in a situation like that is to sell them on magnetic. If they're going to go on beams, we move it to magnetic. One added benefit of the magnetic, of course, is you place them, maybe you can place them a little bit further apart. Now, not beyond what the pressure requirement is.
Had,
right?
Mark P just came in late and is asking that exact question.
Yeah. So
how much to attach?
Yeah. So let's say it's a potentially high pressure site because this new construction went up where there were birds nesting before. So you could actually space them further apart, right? We're going to go, maybe the max that you'll ever see is a 12-inch spacing, depending on certain birds. But by taking magnetics and spacing them out a little further, right, maybe we save a little bit of money. Maybe you have a little bit extra to use for another job. That's a good thing. But what happens if it starts to show signs that birds are getting in here? With the magnets, then we just compress them in a few areas and add a few more discs if we needed to. So there's all kinds of versatility to the magnets, and as well as the zip tie version. The zip tie version, that same theory, of course. So we're going to attach this. We're going to attach to a pipe. Very sleek and cool looking glass here.
Let me get it. Okay,
But
I'm zooming in here.
so the zip tie version, again, we could space them out a little bit further, and maybe we're doing okay with it. Right? Side view. I'm sorry, side view. Here we are. Other side.
Sorry.
This way?
Thank you. And then see we're down the screen right here? Or wait, my bad.
No, okay.
Hold on. There we go.
But you get the idea here. Oh, there we are. All right, there you go. That looks really cool.
And maybe a 3/4 view.
But here, let me show you this cool trick right here, is that this actually removes off of the mount,
Can you do
right?
that, please?
Yeah, and then it snaps back in. So this is actually a removable, replaceable system that you can do. This is very difficult to do while I'm holding the glass at this angle, but you get the idea. This actually mounts onto the zip mount, but can be removed. Now, we got a mount in development right now of this that can be attached to regular surfaces just for the replacement capability of the disc going in and out of this. That's another cool thing. And on one of my current post on capacitor banks for the electrical industry, they were very interested in having a base mount, like a mount like this, that was not zip tied, but it would actually just glue down, and therefore we could pull the disc in and out. So keep your eyes open for that one. We'll surely to make announcements on it, but you get the idea here with the zip mount. It's pretty cool. Snaps on there and does a great job. Any other questions out there? Amidst, how do you attach? All right, so yeah, there's an actual zip tie. All it is a zip tie threads through here. You pull the zip tie tight and you trim off the excess. It's just your standard zip tie mount. The nice thing is that the zip tie itself, once it threads through, it doesn't come off. It just stays in there ready to use. You can pre-load your zip ties and have them all ready when you go up on the lift or ladder. Any others? Any other questions?
Can you remind me the web address for professional installers?
The web address for professional installers. Well, there's a couple different features. Earlier today, we did a private session for a company where we talked about some of the installer tools, like the quick quote and estimators for installers. So there's a section on the main homepage to birdbarrier.com for installers. Within Optical Gel, there's also installer link as well. So it's birdbarrier.opticalgel, and I think it's /installer. But once you go into the Optical Gel page on our website, birdbarrier.com, you will see the information, a lot of good things for installers, including these installation sheets that we have, these little PDF files that you can drag right onto your desktop. You can put them right on your phone. I keep them on my phone. I take my phone off during these sessions, but on my phone, I have all those quick guides ready, and I can email them. I can airdrop them to people as I meet with them. So I think that's it. Do we have any other questions?
Do we get a certification?
Do you get a certification? Yes. Anybody who did this webcast today, you're going to be getting another email. I think it's through MailChimp, right? MailChimp, you'll be getting a little survey, and it is an exam to make sure that you were paying attention and that you're going to install this stuff properly and not be one of the examples we use in the future to show how not to use optical gel. After you do that exam, then there's a space on there for you to put your exact name, company information that will appear on the certificate. That is a great question and a great tool to have right now, because once you go in and you show that you're a certified installer, one of the things that you want to bring up is the fact that most bird work is hazmat cleanup. You're dealing with hazardous materials. Customers should not be doing this kind of work themselves. When we get that question, what if a customer wants to buy this material themselves? We defer them, especially residential leads. We're going to defer the people who have been certified like yourself. As soon as you start doing work in your particular area, we have a whole bunch of guys that we send leads to in certain areas that have proven that they're certified and they do good work. The way that they prove that they're certified and do good work is that you're going to share a couple success examples after you get started. We give you your certificate and you're good to go, but what will really help you to get referrals is to then give back to us your before and afters, testimonials from your customer. That's always a good idea to have those. And then also the zip codes where you're running your business out of and where you've done installs. If you're first to that area of Colorado, no one else is doing this work, and we're still seeing many areas. Now we got all of Canada wide open. You're going to be able to see, get leads from us because we're looking for people who will be able to do this. And more, we're seeing industries. I got a call from a property manager looking for an installer in their area, and there was already a guy doing it. Yes.
Did you answer the question about getting certified?
Yes.
Okay,
we
my bad.
do.
I interrupted because
certification. Bird Barrier certified optical
all
Gel
is the
Installer.
website.
Okay.
Now, I see. When
Okay.
you scroll that,
All right.
I'm gonna watch you scroll it right now, and I'm bringing it in. Now everybody sees you. You see right here on the screen, Michael? Look at
Yep,
this
I
thing.
see it. Okay, cool.
Now scroll that. Let's
Right.
see.
Right.
That's what they see. So go for it and show them how to get into some things you want to show them.
So, okay, very good. Yeah, this is an example of one of the many tools that we have here online. And I can just go into problems and solutions here. Pigeons on ledges. So I just clicked on this. Hopefully we're getting a good connection here. It's taking a second to open. But do you guys get the idea for sure here with this?
It's not working.
I'm clicking on it and I'm not, it's probably because we're so overloaded on our Wi-Fi signal.
Why don't you show them the installer stuff, the professional part on this here? Let's go right here and then go to installers
Okay, yep.
in the blue.
For installers. You
Right.
see I clicked on that there. And let's go to Optical Gel on there.
Right.
Why not? Let's go to,
Okay. No, that's not for installers. You're going to go to Optical Gel.
where am I here?
There. It's okay. I'm the geeky guy.
Yeah. Go ahead and show them. Everybody, this is Bobby
Hi.
June, our creative marketing genius behind
Now
all
we're
of
going
this
to
studio.
go. We see that here. We have Ask the Experts. We have training. This is training area. Now we were talking about product advisor. So quick quote. Product advisor is good, but the quick quote is the money. So we're going to quick quote, and quick quote will allow you. It'll take a second.
Probably because of our connectivity in here.
Here it comes. So quick quote. Product advisor is the kind of vanilla version of quick quote. Quick quote gets you you're allowed to input pretty good details and get a very solid quote with a range. And okay, I'm not logged in. I'm glad we're showing you this. You're gonna get frustrated like I am right now, real quick.
No, that's cool.
Because you have to log in first, and I just used my phone to hype this up for Michael. So my apologies.
But you get the-
have to log in.
We're
Sorry about
developing a lot of new tools for you guys all the time for installer purposes. So go to our website and you'll see a lot of those. But most importantly, I think for Optical Gel, if you guys are new to this, let me be involved in the process. Don't be afraid to include me in. Get really good photos of the droppings. Get good photos of the nesting up above. The address so I can go on Google Earth and look at the images and really get an idea what's going on. And within a matter of minutes, I often give guys, and I've jumped ahead with so many of them, like just today, there's a guy from Canada who gave me great photos, really great documentation, and within 30 seconds, I had sent back that he needed 3 contractor boxes on that site, and I told him to sell 2 of them initially with a 6-month program. I gave him the ballpark figure of the numbers for the material cost. He, within minutes, put a proposal together and sent it to his customer. And the beautiful thing about that particular job is that it's a perfect match for the product. They had already offered a much more expensive solution the customer said no to. They were looking for something that was low profile because it was very aesthetically pleasing. It had a lot of stonework on this building. And the beauty was the recurring revenue. They were going to go in and have this huge impact by getting rid of all the nesting sites that were on top of the stone pillars. If this were a stone pillar on the front of a building, they were nesting on the very top, which is a very common problem. Very easy to solve. Get up on a ladder, do the treatment, put the disc in. You're not going to see it from the ground. Once all the nesting is gone, now there are other cavities on that building that they might move to because he has the recurring revenue set up anywhere else that they would move to be able to treat over the next several months and get really good revenue from that. So there you go. There's a very comprehensive look at Optical Gel. Everybody here is now ready to go. Do we have any other questions?
No, not yet.
I think
If
we
anyone
must
type
have,
something in,
we
please
must
do
have
so.
covered everything because we had just a few minutes left, but we are good to go. All right, I think that's it for now, but I really appreciate the opportunity. Again, my name is Michael Gallion. I do business development for Birdberry. I'm also the technical director for our product, Optical Gel and Optica in
Okay,
Canada.
question. Does
One last question.
does the exam have to, one other one too.
Okay.
Keith, does the exam have to be done right away or within a couple of hours?
You can do the exam whenever you decide you want to get your certificate sent to you. So yeah, you'll get the MailChimp link and just, within the next few days, get back to us with it. It'll be, if I were you, I would just do it real quickly. I think it's, what is it, Zach, 8 questions? Eight questions, and then the 9th is for your certificate. And then there's one last, something about Dissolve It.
Does Dissolve It sanitize?
Does Dissolve It sanitize? Well, look, no. No, then don't view it as a sanitizer in that way. You want to use it first and foremost to get rid of the Dissolve It. You're using Dissolve It to get rid of the pheromone marker and also get rid of bird droppings. It's really a cleaning solution to help loosen, dissolve bird droppings, and then rinse those away with water. After that, the sanitization for your safety, that's where the bleach comes in. Bleach is a good surfactant type cleaner where you're going to get rid of microbes and you're going to kill those. That's a separate step. And I think that does it for today. Thank you for your time. Next week, what is it? The 24th at 10 a.m. Pacific time, we'll have a repeat performance of this one. And we're capping it off at 30 so that hopefully when we kick the microphones on, we can actually have interactions. Thank you for your time.